I once imagined the worst part of having a backyard pool would be the endless upkeep. The filters, the leaves, the constant chlorine bills. Oh, how naive I was. The true nightmare arrived in the form of my next-door neighbor Brenda and her little entourage of freeloaders. They treated my carefully maintained oasis as their personal water park, a free-for-all for their boisterous gatherings. Day or night they'd sneak in, splashing and cackling like unruly teenagers, sipping cheap wine, blaring their awful music, and leaving behind a trail of beer cans and soggy chip bags. I tried to be polite, then firm, but Brenda just sneered, "Oh, don't be so selfish, David. It's just water." Selfish? This was my water, my pool, my sanctuary. How dare she? I vowed then and there that if she wanted to push, I'd push back in a way she'd never forget, and her perfectly styled hair wouldn't either. Before I tell you how this epic showdown unfolded, tell me, where are you watching from? I want to see how far HOA drama truly reaches across the globe. My pool was supposed to be my personal slice of heaven. After 2 decades of back-breaking construction work, I'd finally earned this home, a charming brick facade, a shaded deck, and a shimmering blue pool under the Texas sun. My routine was simple: mow the lawn, clean the gutters, skim the water, then relax with a cold beer as my children laughed and played. It wasn't a Beverly Hills mansion, no, but it was ours, and I was fiercely proud. That peace, however, was shattered by Brenda. She wasn't just a neighbor, she was the neighbor, the kind of local legend you hear cautionary tales about. Early 50s, with perpetually visible roots beneath her bottled blonde, and a voice that could slice through the entire cul-de-sac like a banshee's shriek. Even after being removed from the HOA board for unbecoming conduct, a polite way of saying she was an insufferable tyrant, she still paraded around like a 5-star general, clipboard in hand, barking orders about trash cans and lawn heights. Initially, I tried to avoid conflict. A quick nod, a strained smile. I hoped she'd eventually tire of her reign of terror, but Brendan wasn't the type to lose interest. She was the type to intensify. It began subtly. Footprints near the pool, wet towels I didn't recognize, the faint cloying scent of cheap perfume. Then one day, I saw her through the blinds, Brendan in a garish pink swimsuit, sipping wine as if she were the undisputed queen of this suburban kingdom. My first attempt at a friendly confrontation was met with dismissive laughter. "Brenda, my pool is private. I'd really appreciate it if you'd ask first." She threw her head back, a mocking sound escaping her lips. "Oh, don't be absurd, David. We're neighbors. Neighbors share, not pools," I retorted, my patience wearing thin. Not mine, anyway. She simply waved me off, as if I were a bothersome waiter with the wrong order. That's when things truly spiraled. Soon she brought her whole crew, 3 or 4 middle-aged women, often accompanied by their husbands or boyfriends, all waltzing into my backyard like they owned the place. They'd crank up a Bluetooth speaker, blasting cheesy 80s rock and country, popping corks as if it were a spring break bash. Once I came home to find a giant flamingo floaty, half deflated, lipstick smeared across its plastic neck, still bobbing in my pool. It wasn't just annoying, it was a profound insult. This was my property. I paid for the chemicals, scrubbed the algae, painstakingly balanced the pH levels, yet when I tried to assert myself, Brenda would just flash that infuriatingly smug smirk. "You're so selfish, David. Pools are meant to be enjoyed. What kind of neighbor locks everyone out? So selfish." That word selfish ignited a fire within me. Selfish when I'd worked countless double shifts for this house. Selfish when I'd built that deck with my own hands. She, meanwhile, had done nothing but steal my peace and litter my yard. But the final straw, the spark that lit the fuse, was her Facebook post. Scrolling through my phone one evening, I saw it. Brenda, in my pool, arms triumphantly raised, a caption proclaiming, "Best free amenity in the neighborhood. Not HOA privilege, sharing is caring." My blood boiled. That was it. I began meticulously documenting everything. Photos of footprints, videos of her sneaking through the side gate, screenshots of her brazen social media boasts. I considered the HOA, but those meetings were her arena, a circus where she'd undoubtedly twist the narrative and somehow paint me as the villain. So, I sat in my lawn chair, beer in hand, staring at my sparkling pool, a new resolve hardening within me. My gaze fell upon a bottle of industrial-strength bleach in the shed, its label a stark warning: "Caution, may cause irritation." In that instant, an audacious idea electrified my mind. I didn't need to yell, I didn't need the HOA, I didn't even need the cops, I just needed to let her enjoy my pool, on my terms. If Brenda and her cohort insisted on their unauthorized dips, then fine, they'd experience a pool day they'd never ever forget. One dip, and their skin would itch like 1,000 fire ant bites. One rinse, and their expensive salon-dyed hair would frizz, tangle, maybe even shift to an alarming new shade. Nothing truly dangerous, just enough discomfort and humiliation to make them think twice before desecrating my property like some budget resort. And the most delicious part? After the setup, they'd inflicted upon themselves. I lay awake that night, a wide grin plastered across my face. My wife, groggy beside me, murmured, "What's so funny?" "Nothing," I whispered back, "just planning a little neighborhood hospitality." I hadn't felt so alive in months. The next morning, I strode to the shed, gazing at that bleach bottle as if it were Excalibur. My plan was simple, yet devastatingly effective. By week's end, Brenda and her friends would be scratching, shrieking, and swearing off my pool forever. They wanted free spa days? Oh, I'd give them one. Just not the kind they expected. You'd think after my initial warnings and the icy glares I shot while mowing the lawn, Brenda and her posse would have taken the hint. But Brenda reveled in defiance. She was the type who'd stride through a "do not enter" sign just to prove she could. Every invasion of my backyard became her personal performance art, each act louder, messier, and more defiant than the last. One Saturday, returning from errands, I heard the throbbing bass from blocks away. It rattled my ribs even before I stepped out of my truck. I walked around the side of the house and froze. 6 of them this time: Brenda, 2 of her cronies, a couple of unfamiliar men, and a beer-bellied dude who looked like he hadn't worn a shirt since the 90s. They were sprawled on my deck chairs, splashing in my pool, popping cans of White Claw like it was their private beach club. Brenda spotted me, raising her glass with a sickeningly sweet smile. "Oh, look who's home. Don't worry, we're just keeping the water warm for you." My jaw clenched. "Get out, now," she smiled, a predatory glint in her eyes. "Relax, neighbor, it's community spirit. You can't keep this all to yourself." My fists tightened. Community spirit? Since when did that mean free access to my private property? The mess they left was infuriating. Empty chip bags dancing across the lawn, glinting bottle caps, and once, unbelievably, a soggy slice of pizza floating in the pool. My chlorine filter nearly choked on pepperoni and melted cheese. I'd wake up to find the water cloudy with sunscreen oil, discarded straws, and half-deflated rafts. It was a frat party aftermath, every single morning. But Brendan wasn't done. She decided my pool was her personal photo shoot studio. One evening, I nearly spat out my drink scrolling through Facebook. There she was, striking a pose in the shallow end, oversized sunglasses, floppy straw hat, with the caption, "Living the good life. Blessed HOA privilege." The comments were even worse. "OMG Brenda, you're glowing. Where is this resort? Wow, jealous, that pool is amazing." And the most galling, "Neighborhood perks baby," with a winky face. My blood boiled. She wasn't just stealing my pool, she was mocking me, turning her blatant trespassing into a badge of honor. I decided on a test. The next weekend, I deliberately left the side gate unlocked. By noon, I heard the familiar sounds of laughter and splashing. Peering through the blinds, I saw her, Brenda, floating on a neon raft, sipping wine like Cleopatra gliding down the Nile, her friends kicking in the water, music blaring, their laughter echoing through the neighborhood. It hit me then. Brenda didn't believe I had the guts to stop her. She saw me as too polite, too bound by rules, too much of a pushover. To her, I was just the grumpy old guy next door who'd stomp and shout but never truly act. A part of me considered calling the police or filing an official HOA complaint. But what good would that do? Police don't respond to neighbors swimming in my pool emergencies, and HOA meetings were Brenda's natural habitat. She'd spin a tale, play the victim, maybe even get me fined for having a pool that was too tempting. No, to stop her, I had to hit her where it hurt most, her pride, her vanity, her carefully crafted image. Brenda lived for appearances. She maintained a flawless facade, dyed her hair religiously, always had perfect nails and makeup thick enough to withstand a hurricane. The one thing she couldn't tolerate was looking ridiculous. That's when the bleach plan solidified from a dark joke into a concrete mission. But first, one more infuriating insult. I arrived home late one Tuesday, utterly exhausted, hoping for a quiet swim under the stars. Instead, I walked into utter chaos. Brendan and her friends had decided to throw a full-blown night swim party. String lights, not mine, dangled across my fence, music thumped, wine glasses clinked, and someone was grilling burgers on a portable BBQ they'd dragged into my yard without permission. I froze, aghast. They'd turned my backyard into a full-blown carnival. I stormed toward the deck, my voice booming over the music. "What in God's name do you think you're doing?" Silence. Then Brenda, ever so cool, raised her glass. "Relax, David, we'll clean up. You should thank us. We're keeping the place lively." That was it. No more warnings, no more begging, no more playing the reasonable neighbor. Brenda wanted to push. Fine, I was done being pushed. I retreated inside, slammed the door, and grabbed a notepad. Step 1, chemicals. Step 2, timing. Step 3, patience. By the time I finished scribbling, I had a plan worthy of a Bond villain. The next time Brenda and her friends trespassed, they wouldn't be leaving with smug smiles and Instagram-worthy photos. They'd be leaving with intensely itchy skin, horrifically frizzy hair, and a humiliation so profound it would sting worse than any chemical burn. I took a final sip of beer, leaned back and grinned. "Game on, Brenda," I muttered to the empty room. "Game on. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. Me, I prefer it chilled, chlorinated, and laced with just enough bleach to ruin a day without landing me in jail." After that night swim fiasco, the idea consumed me. Every time I passed the industrial-strength bleach in the shed, it seemed to wink. This wasn't just payback, it was poetic justice. Brenda and her friends wanted a free spa? I'd give them one, complete with skin irritation and a disastrous hair day. I had to be careful though. Brenda was shameless, but not stupid. Any permanent damage, and I'd face a lawsuit faster than she could say trespassing. No, I aimed for discomfort, not danger. Embarrassment, not injury. A direct hit to her ego and vanity. So I did my research. Late at night while my wife slept, I scoured pool maintenance forums, learning about pH levels, shock treatments, and the delightful consequences of overchlorination. The results were perfect. Dry, brittle hair, guaranteed skin irritation, and faded swimsuits. Bingo! The next day, I bought more bleach, acting like a typical suburban dad on a spring cleaning mission, nodding to the cashier as if nothing was amiss. She had no idea she was ringing up the ingredients for my masterpiece. I stashed the jugs behind the lawnmower in the shed, a spot Brenda never bothered to snoop. Then I mapped out her schedule. Saturdays were her big pool party days. Tuesdays and Thursdays were smaller, just her and a friend or two, lounging like queens. Saturday afternoon would be the perfect stage, but I wouldn't just dump the bleach and walk away. Oh no, I wanted to witness the transformation, the exact moment smugness morphed into pure panic. So I angled my security cameras, capturing the pool, the deck, and their usual entry gate. I even tested the audio, hoping to catch Brenda's shriek. All week I played it cool. I waved politely when I saw her watering her azaleas. She returned a condescending smile, believing she'd won the neighborhood. Let her think that. The war she didn't know was just beginning. Friday night, after the kids were asleep, I crept outside, a jug in each hand. The moonlight shimmered on the water, calm and inviting. I twisted the cap and poured a steady stream into the deep end, watching it swirl like smoke. A second jug, then a third. The sharp chemical scent bit at my throat. I stirred the water with the pool net, ensuring even distribution. The water still looked pristine, crystal clear under the floodlight. But I knew its secret. It was a trap. I stood there, a mad scientist grinning at his creation, and whispered to the night, "Enjoy your spa day, Brenda." The next morning, I maintained my charade, mowed the lawn, waved to neighbors, took the kids for ice cream. Meanwhile, my cameras were on high alert. Around noon I checked the footage. Right on schedule, the gate creaked open. In swaggered Brenda, sunglasses flashing, tote bag slung over her shoulder, followed by 3 giggling friends. They dropped their belongings, stripped to their swimsuits, and dove in. I leaned closer to the screen. This was it. Showtime. For a glorious few minutes, it was business as usual. Splashing, laughter, Brenda floating on her neon raft, wine tumbler in hand. Then, precisely as predicted, the scratching began. One friend rubbed her arm, a frown creasing her face. Another wiggled her shoulders, as if something crawled on her skin. Brenda herself tugged at her hair, a look of confusion on her face. And then, it happened. A shriek so piercing it blasted through my speakers like a banshee's wail. My hair, oh my God, what's happening to my hair? Her carefully dyed blonde strands were turning frizzy, brittle, betraying her in real time. Her friends scrambled out, scratching frantically, clutching at their burning, itching skin. One slipped on the deck, narrowly avoiding a faceplant before limping to a chair. Brenda staggered to the edge, her makeup smeared, her once perfect hair now a wild, electrocuted mess. I leaned back, arms folded, a triumphant grin spreading across my face. The bleach had worked its magic. Not dangerous, not permanent, but gloriously humiliating. And I had it all on video. The self-proclaimed queen of the HOA was choking on her own medicine. Glorious was the only word to describe it. All those smug afternoons, the snide remarks, the trash, the endless frustration, it was all paying dividends in shrieks, flailing limbs, and a catastrophic hair day apocalypse. On the camera feed, Brenda thrashed toward the ladder like a panicked animal. Her friends were no better. One woman clawed at her arms, muttering about burning skin. Another, the wine ant, stumbled onto the deck, coughing dramatically, her swimsuit already looking faded and sad. And the hair. Oh, Brenda's hair. She was so precious about it. Weekly dye jobs, expensive conditioners, hours spent styling. But bleach, apparently, cares nothing for vanity. As she hauled herself out, her golden mane transformed into a tangled bird's nest, frizzy and dry, with alarming streaks of orange and near white poking through like a cheap Halloween wig. The sight made my stomach hurt from laughing so hard. I hit record on my phone, capturing every frame. This wasn't just satisfaction, it was evidence. If Brenda tried to twist the story, I'd have footage of her trespassing, partying and melting down like a reality TV diva. By the time they finally scrambled out, grabbing towels and screeching at each other, my backyard looked like a war zone. Chairs overturned, wine spilled, soggy chips crushed into the deck. Brenda's raft drifted forlornly, a sinking ship. I sat at my kitchen table, beer in hand, watching from the security monitor, chuckling like I was binge-watching the best sitcom ever. "Should we go out there?" my wife asked, peeking over my shoulder. I shook my head. "Nope, let them sort it out. They wanted to play in my pool, now they can face the consequences." She smirked, shook her head, and muttered, "You're evil." "Creative," I corrected her. "There's a difference." But the real magic unfolded that evening. I was watering my lawn when Brenda stormed past on the sidewalk, wrapped in a robe, her hair a wild tumbleweed. She saw me and froze. For the first time in months, no smirk, no sass, no phony superiority, just raw, simmering embarrassment. "Something's wrong with your pool," she snapped. I raised an eyebrow. "Funny, it works perfectly fine for me." She opened her mouth, then snapped it shut. Her friends, trailing like damp, defeated puppies, avoided eye contact entirely. Not a word. They vanished into her house, slamming the door. I swear I heard one of them mutter, "Never again." Mission accomplished. The fallout didn't end there. The next few days were even sweeter. Brenda skipped her morning HOA patrols. No clipboard, no yelling at kids, no complaints about trash bins. The street was eerily quiet, as if the local witch had gone into hibernation. But I knew Brenda. She wouldn't disappear forever. She thrived on control, attention, and drama. She'd be back, swinging. Sure enough, she was. The HOA meeting, held in the community center by the lake, was its usual bland affair. Folding chairs, lukewarm coffee, styrofoam cups. I arrived late, as always, knowing nothing irked Brenda more than my casual stroll mid-speech. But this time, she wasn't chairing. She didn't even have a position. Yet there she was, front row, scarf tightly wrapped around her fried hair, makeup caked on to hide blotchy skin, projecting authority as if she were still Queen Bee. Michael, the calm board president, began the agenda: lawn maintenance, the 4th of July barbecue, tennis court budget, typical suburban snooze fest. Then Brenda pounced. She shot to her feet, interrupting Michael. "I need to address a serious issue in this community," she announced, her voice a high-pitched whistle. Michael sighed. "Brenda, please wait for open comments." She ignored him. "There's a health hazard. A swimming pool is being improperly maintained, chemicals misused. Residents, even children, are at risk." Gasps rippled through the room. Neighbors exchanged confused glances. I kept my face neutral, sipping my terrible coffee. Brenda pressed on, ever the drama queen. I myself was affected. I suffered skin irritation, hair damage. She dramatically touched her scarf. "Serious personal distress. This is unacceptable. We must find the homeowner responsible before someone gets hurt." I nearly choked. She was actually doing it, trying to flip the script and pin it on me. Michael looked bewildered. "Brenda, are you saying—" "Yes," she shrieked. "That pool is a ticking time bomb. If dangerous chemicals seep into our environment, we'll all suffer." I moved that the HOA investigate and penalize. That was my cue. I stood slowly, deliberately, every eye in the room turning to me. "Brenda," I said, my voice steady, "are you seriously accusing me of mismanaging my own pool?" Her eyes narrowed. "You admit it then?" I smiled. "Oh no, I'm not admitting anything. I'm just fascinated by how you'd have first-hand knowledge of my pool's chemical levels." A few chuckles broke out. Brenda's face flushed. I was invited." "Invited?" I raised an eyebrow. "That's interesting, because according to my cameras," I pulled out my phone, "you weren't invited at all." The room fell silent. I tapped a button, and the TV screen flickered to life. I'd come prepared with a USB stick, and there it was. Brenda and her friends sneaking in, laughing, drinking, then the meltdown. Brenda clutching her hair, shrieking, her friends scratching and stumbling out in pure pandemonium. The room erupted. Gasps, unsuppressed laughter. An older guy in the back muttered, "Serves her right." Brenda lunged forward. "This is an invasion of privacy. You can't—" Michael held up a hand. "Brenda, enough. This footage clearly shows trespassing on private property. You were not invited. You have no grounds to accuse anyone else of wrongdoing." Her mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. Another neighbor chimed in. Didn't you post pictures of yourself in his pool on Facebook? HOA privilege, or something? Brenda sputtered. That was taken out of context. The laughter swelled. The tide had turned. For once Brenda wasn't in control. She wasn't feared. She wasn't even respected. She was a punchline. Michael banged the gavel. This matter is settled. Brenda, you and your guests will be fined for trespassing. You are also banned from using community amenities for the next 6 months. Brenda's face turned crimson. You can't do this, she shrieked. But the room had moved on. The board discussed the next agenda item, while whispers and chuckles filled the air. Brenda slumped, humiliated, her scarf slipping to reveal the frizzy, brittle mess beneath. I leaned back, calm as could be, and whispered, just loud enough for her to hear. How's that for community spirit? Her glare could have melted steel, but it no longer mattered. She was exposed, stripped of her power, branded as the fraud she was. And for me, it was better than any victory lap. Walking home, neighbors clapped me on the back. Good job, David, one exclaimed. About time someone stood up to her, another added. I nodded, buzzing. The balance of power had shifted. Brenda wasn't untouchable. She wasn't the queen bee. She was just Brenda, with ruined hair, a bruised ego, and no allies. But I knew she wasn't finished. People like her never quit. They lick their wounds, bide their time, and plot their comeback. And when she did, I'd be ready. I wasn't just the neighbor anymore. I was the guy who beat her at her own game. If humiliation were a disease, Brenda was patient zero. After the HOA meeting, her reputation plummeted. Neighbors whispered, some openly mocked. Kids on bikes zoomed past her house, chanting, "Pool witch, pool witch." I would have felt bad if it weren't so satisfying, but Brenda was nothing if not stubborn. She wouldn't accept her downfall. She'd ruled like a tyrant for years, and tyrants don't surrender their crowns without a fight, so she tried to fight back. First, a gossip campaign. She cornered neighbors, spinning sob stories about how I'd poisoned the pool, waving her brittle hair as Exhibit A. But when you've spent years bullying everyone, no one joins your pity party. Neighbors nodded politely, then crossed the street. Some laughed. One guy, Doug, flat out told her, "Brenda, you weren't supposed to be in his pool." That shut her up. Next, the legal route. She actually called the police. My neighbor poisoned me. The officer at my door looked amused and exhausted. He explained. I calmly showed him the footage. Brenda trespassing, partying, then screaming as her bleach-saturated hair fried. The officer chuckled, shook his head, and said, "Ma'am, maybe stop breaking into your neighbor's yard." Case closed. By her third strike, Brenda was desperate. She marched to my door, fists clenched. "You think you've won, don't you? You humiliated me. You ruined my life." I leaned against the doorframe, calm as a monk. "Brenda, you ruined your own life. I just sped up the process." Her eyes burned. "This isn't over. People like me don't get pushed aside. People like you," I said slowly, "already have been." I closed the door. For the first time, she didn't bang. She just slunk away, defeated. But her spiral continued. She tried one last backyard party, inviting her dwindling loyalists. Maybe a dozen showed, but they saw her pool. Algae, cloudy water, broken furniture. No one dipped a toe. They awkwardly sipped cheap boxed wine, as Brenda tried to rally them. It didn't work. Within an hour they trickled out, muttering excuses. Brenda stood alone, wine glass trembling, staring into her murky pool as if it held answers. Meanwhile, my yard buzzed. Neighbors, once distant, now waved, stopped for a beer, even asked if their kids could swim, with permission of course. The community, once divided by Brenda's reign, was united, and I was its quiet anchor. The irony wasn't lost on me. Brenda, who'd used the HOA to bully for years, was now shunned, stripped of power. The final blow came a week later, an official HOA notice, posted on the bulletin board and in the newsletter. Trespassing is strictly prohibited. Recent incidents have resulted in fines and disciplinary measures. Respect your neighbor's property. Everyone knew it was about her, her shame, immortalized in print. I saw her tearing down a notice, hands shaking. Teenagers laughed. She tried to glare, but they just kept laughing. That was the moment. Brenda wasn't feared, or respected, or even tolerated. She was a joke, and jokes don't run neighborhoods. That Saturday, I sat by my pool again, beer in hand, water calm and clear. My kids splashed, my wife read, and for the first time in months, I felt real peace. The bleach, the video, the HOA meeting. Her downfall. She'd always believed she was untouchable, taking without consequence. But her arrogance and a little creativity had undone her. I hadn't just protected my pool, I'd protected the neighborhood, showing that bullies only have power if you let them. Brenda paid the price, and by the look of her wilted roses, overgrown lawn and empty driveway, she'd be paying for a long time. But I knew one last storm was coming. Brenda wasn't built to vanish quietly, and when she tried again, I'd be ready. This was more than a pool war, it was an HOA war, and I was finally winning. If there's one thing I've learned about people like Brenda, it's this: they don't just fade away. They thrash, they claw, they scream, and they drag everyone down with them. So when she went quiet after the HOA newsletter exposed her, I knew it wasn't over. Silence wasn't surrender, it was plotting. The storm came, of course. Little things at first: a dead patch on my lawn from mysterious salt, trash bags by my driveway, petty childish acts designed to make me spiral. But I just smiled. She was flailing, losing control. The real climax arrived at the summer block party, the first big gathering since her infamous pool meltdown. Everyone wondered if she'd reclaim her throne or self-destruct. My family and I arrived, cool as ever, cooler of sodas in hand. Neighbors waved, clapped my back, handed us fresh burgers. The community felt friendlier than ever. Brendan slithered in, wide-brimmed hat and oversized sunglasses hiding her fried hair, clipboard clutched like she was still in charge. The moment she opened her mouth, eyes rolled. She barked about parking, complained about barbecue smoke, lectured a kid. But instead of silence, she got laughter. Instead of compliance, she got mockery. "Careful, Brenda," a dad called out. "You might need to bleach the pavement after that scooter leaves marks." The crowd roared. Brendan's face went beet red. "This is harassment. You can't treat me this way." That's when Michael, the HOA president, stepped in, calm but firm. "Brenda, you are no longer on the board. You have no authority here given your repeated violations. You're lucky you're not facing legal charges." A hush fell. Brenda froze, clipboard shaking. For years she'd wielded HOA power like a weapon. Now, in front of everyone, it was stripped away. You could almost see the crown falling from her head. She dropped the clipboard, turned and stormed off. The crowd cheered, not out of cruelty, but sheer relief. We were finally free. That night by my clean, calm pool, my kids splashing, my wife smiling, I realized Brenda had paid the ultimate price. Not the ruined hair, not the HOA exposure, but the loss of what she valued most: control, attention, the illusion of power. This was truly my home. Brenda was finished, and I was finally at peace.